let's talk baseball here at the end. Okay, so briefly, Nebraska has not yet clinched a berth in the Big Ten tournament. You wrote a nice article, in-depth article about all the scenarios. I would like you to synopsize that. What does Nebraska need to do to make the Big Ten tournament? How high of a seed can it have, and how low of a seed can it
Well, its range of outcomes, to my understanding, having spent more time than I want to share, kind of looking into some of the scenarios, they can finish as high as fifth and they can finish outside the top 12, depending on how things go. Now, they could get swept at Purdue, not likely, but it could happen. And they could still make the Big Ten tournament at that point. So it's setting up pretty favorably. If you win one of the three, you're almost certainly in, and it's not 100%, but you're almost certainly in at that point. And that's it really doesn't matter. I mean, in terms of the seating outside of like game times and things for the tournament next week. So they're mostly in. I think they figured some things out in terms of pitching. The offense continues to really limit them, and they've had some injuries there. Uh, but that's kind of where they stand, and it sets up a scenario where they'll probably have to go 4-0 in Omaha next week to continue their season after that point.
Why do they have to go 4-0? This is something people do not understand about the Big Ten tournament format.
Yeah, it's a new format this year. So forever in Omaha, since it's been in Omaha, it's been an 8-team double elimination thing. People that follow Nebraska know that a year ago, Nebraska lost that first game, and then they won 5 straight elimination games to win the tournament title. The way that it sets up now is it's a 12-team event. You've got 4 pods of 3 teams apiece, and each of those teams play each other. So everyone's guaranteed 2 games. And if there is a tie within those pods, if everybody goes 1-1, the tiebreaker, pretty ridiculously, in my opinion, is higher seed. So if you're not a top 4 seed, it's essentially single elimination from the jump. So it's possible, and I don't think fans necessarily realize this, that Nebraska could lose its first game and then come back and play a second game that actually has no bearing on their season at all. If they lose their first game, uh, considering where they're going to be seated, they could not win a tiebreaker and would play a game that has no consequence and would not allow them to advance. So that could involve Nebraska, that could involve a bunch of other teams. And we saw it in the ACC. They used this format since 2017. They went away from it starting this season, or they're going to go away from it. But it does. It's going to set up a different sort of vibe that I think people maybe aren't used to. Involving Nebraska, that would be a weird thing after what it's been.
Hmm.
Don't you
Yeah.
think?
Oh, yeah. What they're going to keep this format or go to something else?
Well, the SEC and the ACC both went to a 16-team single elimination format starting this year, and in part because of the conference realignment that allowed them to do that. So that was something that was pushed by their coaches and their people that support that program. So maybe that's something the Big Ten considers in the future. The downside of that is you're only guaranteed the 1 game. So, I don't know how
So what?
eager. I know, but I don't know from a Big Ten perspective, how eager are they to fly out these West Coast teams potentially for 1 game and to head them back? So
Well, they did it with softball.
they did. I don't know. I mean, that's the situation. It's possible this could be a one and done format. You could move to a situation in a year where you have 16 Big Ten teams in a single elimination format, and you got team number 17 staying home. I guess you could do that. Uh, but there's a reason the ACC just went away from this format that the Big Ten's now adopting. And, again, if Nebraska's in a situation where they're playing in Omaha in a game that's meaningless to what they do, that could be something that could maybe get people's attention to prompt change. We'll see how it plays out.
Okay. I'm doing a mailbag this week, and I'm curious. So I was asked this question: if there would be not head coaching changes, but any movement among the assistant staff if they don't make the NCAA tournament.
Well, I mean, I just think you probably have to look at the areas that they've struggled in, and it's been offensively right now. For you just, I mean, just in terms of rankings, they're a top 100 team with pitching and ERA. I know they worked through some injuries and things, but you feel decent about how that's gone, I think, still. But it would have to be offensively. And they have a couple assistants that work on that side for sure.
Right.
Maybe that's an area that you would adjust. I mean, Will Bolt did that with Jeff Christie a few years ago when they made the move to Rob Childress because of the pitching struggles. So I think he's a guy who's made that tough decision before with people that he cares about. And I mean, that would probably be something you have to assess at the end of the year is if it is how short of expectations did that lineup end up finishing, especially considering how veteran it is.
Yeah, I wrote in the mailbag, which will be up after tomorrow morning. Nebraska's offense deserves an off-season assessment.
Yeah.
Big Ten games, and this is Big Ten only games. I don't love the all of the games because everybody plays different schedules. In Big Ten games, Nebraska is 14th in runs scored, 13th in OPS, which is my favorite stat, 12 in home runs, and 11th in batting average. Now, I put a lot of stock in OPS. That's obviously on base plus slugging and runs and homers mostly. But 14th, 13th, 12th, and 11th, they were middle of the pack last year in a lot of those stats. So I'm sure they were hoping to at least do that well and maybe better this year.
Well, it's kind of like football where we talk about like you can be good defensively and that can keep you around, good pitching that can keep you around, but like the teams that really threaten, the teams that really make a difference, they can do it on offense too. And I think that, we could talk about that with football and we can talk about that with baseball. What are the teams that show up to the College World Series every year? They're teams that are approaching 100 home runs, that are hitting doubles, that are drawing walks. Like that's been a struggle for Nebraska outside of 2023 when Max Anderson and Bryce Matthews and Gabe Swanson powered up. Like that just hasn't been their game, and it's been a grind trying to score runs. So I think that's something you have to continue to assess because the defense has been good enough this year. The pitching has been good enough, injuries involved and all the rest, but it's the offense that even last year as a regional team was okay. It was average nationally. It wasn't great. That's something that I think you continue to look at in terms of what do you want to hang your hat on as a lineup.
Yes, indeed. The top 10, according to D1 Baseball this week, LSU, Florida State, Texas, North Carolina, Oregon, Auburn, Oregon State, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, Georgia. Nebraska has a 3-1 record against the top 10.
Yeah,
You know that?
they had a winning record against ranked teams this year.
Yeah.
It's been confounding at
Now you
times.
go down a bit. Coastal Carolina, they didn't play them. They lost to UC Irvine. They get swept by UCLA. They did, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah. So there's some other stuff in there that's not as good. But according to D1 Baseball, Northeastern is 25th. Okay. Okay. I would love to see it.
See him
Love
make
to
a
see
run.
that. That would be fun if they're 41-9. So I'd love to see the sleeper. But like it's Nebraska can beat good teams. They've done it for years now. It's consistency. And
That's
getting
right.
out of their own way. I don't I actually think Nebraska tries too hard a little times sometimes. They want to win so badly. And sometimes you'll see things that you're just like, you guys are trying a little hard. Like almost like you're trying to will it and a mistake happens. Base running,
Yes.
overly aggressive. Just they're playing hard. I think Nebraska plays very hard. It's not a question.
Yeah.
I remember when Erstad got their first year under Erstad as the head coach, and their pitchers went to the Big Ten tournament. They didn't. They were just nibbling around the zone, and they wouldn't attack anything. Erstad started the culture change. I think both furthered it along. They play very hard. It's just a question of execution.
That's true.
um, and not beating yourself. And sometimes when you play really hard, you can almost make mistakes, that you wouldn't otherwise make if you're feeling I don't know. It'll be interesting to watch. I'm with you. I think they're kind of on a run here. So if they win, let's say they win two or three at Purdue, I still give them a great chance of going to Omaha and winning two.
I think so.
I
We've
don't
talked about it. Their offense is good for that park that plays big.
Mhm.
It's going to mitigate the power for a lot of other teams. Obviously, the home field advantage, the fact that Nebraska's played there this year against Creighton, I mean that can make a difference too. Half of this roster just won the tournament last year, so this is an uncharted territory for a lot of these guys. All that plays into it. Uh, and I do think they've figured some things out on the pitching side. It's just going to come down to the same things that's defined their games all year. Can they get the clutch hit? Can you get a couple easy runs? Can you hit a two-run homer like that? If that team can hit a two-run homer and get a couple easy runs, like it makes a huge difference in what they
Right.
do. So we'll see how it shakes out. But it does look like, barring a total collapse and some other things going against them, they'll at least make it to Omaha and see what happens.
I like their chances if they get there. I'm not saying I would make them the favorite. I'd probably make UCLA the favorite, but I don't think any team there is brilliant. And Oregon's a funny team. They're kind of up and down. They swept Oregon State, lost two or three to Ohio State. They play Iowa this week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're kind of up and down. They're funny. So I guess we'll find out. I don't know if we're going to be back before the Big Ten tournament starts next week. So we'll just have to see how it turns out. Reed Evans' work. Maybe we'll chat next week. Maybe we'll wait until late in the week. Maybe we'll wait and see if Nebraska makes the NCAA tournament. You're in agreement that they have to win the Big Ten tournament in order to do that, right?
Yep. Yep. At this point, their RPI's in the low 70s. I don't see how they can make that up at this point. So yeah, you need to at least win a game this weekend, then go 4-0 in Omaha to continue into a regional.
All right. For Evan, I'm Sam. If they make the NCAA tournament, Evan will give us all the great coverage, and we'll talk then. Oh, Nebraska straw, which inevitably will be difficult. Thanks for listening to the Pick Six podcast.